Denver, its biggest January snowfall in 30 years. Snow, and get this, even little ones are already up and working, helping mom and dad clear the driveway. Thank you. I can hear you as well, or whoever. And here's right now on the National Weather Desk, Let It Snow. A storm that gave Denver its biggest January snowfall in 30 years stretches across the plains.
We've seen our largest snowfall in almost 5 years.
While folks in Seattle prepare for more king tide flooding.
We put sandbags along our door about 2 to 3 feet high, and now we just wait to see if the water comes over.
And in California, meet the people still stuck in their homes days after the storms.
But it's never been this bad. So what are we supposed to do?
There's also disturbing news about just how warm the temperatures now are in Greenland. And inside the mind of a storm chaser, what does he do to get those great, but sometimes dangerous tornado shots?
Driving is by far the worst part of storm chasing.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. This morning, we are tracking a storm that's bringing heavy snow from Denver to Wisconsin. Let's start in Green Bay, where, as you can see right here, there is snow on the ground overnight. Many of those remain covered with snow. But this morning, plows have been out, and we understand pavement is actually visible in many places. Most of the region is expected to see 4 to 6 inches of snow. And get this, even little ones are already up and working. Look at that, helping mom and dad clear the driveway. And there's a different view of snow right here. That is Lambeau Field on your screen. The snow should taper off by noon, but temperatures will remain right around freezing. Next, Nebraska, where some parts of the state picked up 2 feet of snow, but it's windy. It's windy out there this morning, so all that blowing snow makes it really hard to see. We'll take you to Nebraska in just a few minutes, but we start in Iowa, where a winter storm warning expires this morning. The storm left behind plenty of snow. Reporter Katie Koppel shows us the aftermath.
I'm in the Sioux City metro area where we've seen our largest snowfall in almost 5 years, actually nearly 5 years to date. January 22nd, 2018 was the last time the Sioux City, Iowa metro area saw 8 or more inches of snow. That year we saw 12.1 inches. Here we're probably a little over 8 overall in the Sioux City metro. So it's been snowing for about 14 hours, started about 5 p.m. on Wednesday. And so let's take a quick snow measurement here, see where we're at. And we're going to 7 inches of snow here just in the Sioux City metro area, and we've got the DOT plows behind us. They're working hard to keep our streets clean, and we're just going to keep digging out here in Sioux City. The largest snowfall we've seen in quite some time. But reporting for the National Weather Desk, I'm Katie Koppel.
And in Nebraska, road crews have their hands full with heavy snowfall and also, of course, trying to keep the roads clear. Taylor Leverett also says the storm is also impacting fire departments in Kearney.
If you were planning to travel, the snow may have other plans for you. Visibility is not that great, so they're definitely advising people to not travel, especially in conditions like this. And in case the snow gets worse, Tri-City officials are prepared.
We're just gearing up. We got some things that we tend to do, and this storm is no different.
So far, it's actually been pretty quiet here in Kearney as far as fire and rescue is concerned. For this weather event, we went ahead and we brought in our snowplow. We have a pickup with a snowplow. We went ahead and brought that into town. It'll be a lead truck for any of our calls.
So instead of having 2 fully staffed medical units, we put in an additional one.
And if you can, both fire chiefs recommend you stay home.
We just had somebody hit a snow pile out on downtown on the bricks here because you can't see the snow because the snow's white and the streets are white. And so, yeah, it's definitely not advised to travel.
Take some extra time and use caution.
Reporting, I'm Taylor Leverett.
In Colorado, cleanup is underway in Denver after the city saw its largest January snowstorm in more than 30 years. Hundreds of schools, businesses, and offices were closed due to the snow. At the Denver International Airport on Wednesday, airlines canceled hundreds of flights. More than 260 of them were scrapped by midday. Almost 700 flights were also delayed. A big reason for this? The time spent de-icing those planes. And a 160-mile stretch of Interstate 70 was shut down after a crash involving 9 semis and 12 cars. Hazmat teams were sent out to contain the leaks from damaged gas tanks. Amazingly, there were no reports of injuries in that crash you're looking at. A line of severe storms pushed through the South on Wednesday. This right here is the aftermath of a possible tornado in Union County in southern Arkansas. The winds took down trees and damaged some buildings. The National Weather Service will be surveying this damage today to officially determine if that was a tornado, and if so, where it rates on the Fujita scale. Well, when there's a lot of heavy snow, more people end up in the emergency room, but it may not be for the reason you may be thinking. Medical reporter Liz Bonus explains.
Call it the ultimate workout. If some of what you're doing out here is often the same type of movement that you're doing in here.
If you're not conditioned for that and you get out there, it can lead to problems.
Dr. Mark Orlando of Ohio's Mayfield Brain and Spine says topping the list of weather-related injuries, back pain.
If you think about shoveling snow, it's an awkward, bad position to begin with. You're in a bent forward posture, body weight out in front of you, and then lifting something with a long lever arm that puts increased stress on the low back.
Bottom line, lift with your legs. Second risk, broken bones.
As the snow and ice comes down upon us, we tend to start getting ready for the slip and fall type of injuries.
So, word of caution, says Dr. Nick Gates, it's not just about what you see underfoot, but what you don't see.
You hear the term black ice, and that is really the biggest thing that we'll see an increased number in injuries.
Finally, heart surgeons are very busy this time of year with the third most common winter-related injury, a heart event.
Being out in the cold raises our heart rates, and it can cause our blood pressure to go up. So those are 2 things that increase your risk of heart attacks and strokes.
And in Seattle, folks are preparing for another round of king tide floods. That's a really high tide that often floods neighborhoods. That could impact a neighborhood that already saw devastating flooding. Karina Vargas explains people say they aren't sure they can take any more damage.
South Park residents are still recovering after last month's king tides inundated their homes and streets. Manuel Archila saw major damage to his home. He says many of his belongings were destroyed after the flooding, and now he's bracing for another round.
The city put bags along the back of our house, and we put sandbags along our door about 2 to 3 feet high. And now we just wait to see if the water comes over.
What Archila's basement looked like during last month's flooding, he says things have finally dried up, but the damage is still visible. These are some of the sandbag barriers placed by Seattle Public Utilities and the city of Seattle. Now, during last month's flooding, SPU says they didn't expect for the river to overflow into the neighborhood, but now they'll be monitoring for any problems. People in the area are frustrated that they couldn't stop the water from coming into their homes last time a king tide hit, and some are still not able to return because of safety concerns.
King tides are not created by heavy rains and winds, so what exactly does cause them? For the answer, we head to meteorologist Rhonda Shelby in Portland, Oregon.
This weekend's highest tides of the year will occur as the sun, the new moon, and Earth are in perfect alignment. This new moon will be at its closest point to the Earth in its orbit, also known as a perigee. All of this creates an exceptionally strong gravitational pull on the Earth, which leads to higher water during high tide. Tides will be well above normal along the Oregon and Washington coast this weekend. Temporary tidal flooding in low-lying areas on the coast is possible. King tides are a popular attraction, as witnessed by amateur photographers capturing breathtaking photos of giant waves crashing against the shoreline. But if you're planning to visit the king tides yourself, be sure to check the tide table for your area and stay a safe distance from the immediate beach and jetties due to sudden, unexpected sneaker waves.
And now to a new study of Greenland's ice sheet found parts of the island are now hotter than any time in the past 1,000 years. German and Danish scientists came to this conclusion by extracting multiple 100-foot or longer cores of ice from the ice sheet. They then analyzed the oxygen bubbles that trapped inside them. Very precise. Rapid warmings of Greenland could lead to melting and a rise in sea levels worldwide. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we talk to a storm chaser about how and what it's like being in the middle of severe weather. And we'll look at how residents in rural California are dealing with the aftermath of recent storms.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We have a storm moving into the Northeast today, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Snow and rain back into New York. It's raining in southern New England. And most of southern New England, southern New York, New Jersey will get primarily rain. But northern New England, parts of northern New York, you're going to get mostly snow out of this. And expect slippery travel for the morning commute there on Friday. That snow should extend through the day Friday over northern parts of the Northeast. As far as snowfall amounts go, the darker shades of blue, you can expect a half foot or more.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Up and down the 95 corridor, going to be an unsettled one for the day today. It looks kind of wet for the morning commute and as well when you're getting the kids from school, and by 5 o'clock for the PM commute too, and after school activities, all looking kind of messy. It's not going to be a snow or ice situation for any, but again, that next weather maker, warmer and wet. Temperatures 50s, 60s, Virginia south, 40s, Pennsylvania, Maryland northbound. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast. Highs for the day. We're seeing 74 in Raleigh, 72 in Charleston. A little bit above normal temperatures as we're going to continue to see a southerly flow ahead of a frontal boundary pushing in from parts of the Tennessee Valley. But it looks like what we are seeing is temperatures right around 80 in Tampa, 82 in West Palm. Above normal temperatures there along the coast in the upper 70s in Pensacola. So it looks like we are seeing a pretty decent day. There will be a chance for some showers as the front moves in across the southeast.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And now to California, where President Joe Biden will be heading to view the damage from recent winter storms. The president expanding an earlier disaster declaration for the state, unlocking more federal money. But as Myra Finkel explains, some residents in rural California are still stuck in their homes.
The road Jesse Skelton usually takes to get home near Sycamore Road was already a bumpy one. She and her neighbors are used to runoffs after rainstorms, but never so high they weren't able to cross.
We understand we live in a rural area. We've always, dealt with it as best as we can, but it's never been this bad. So what are we supposed to do?
Skelton tells me things were so bad her car was sucked in by the quicksand when she tried to cross. It's taken her and her husband 20 minutes to walk to the stream and over the bridge just to catch a ride to run errands. Same story with others who live there.
We don't see a resolution to this until we get some type of access to a road, a bridge, something to get us out of here. Still can't get our children out of here to get to school.
Now, one of the major factors to the recent weather in California and the South was cold air pushing in from the Pacific. But meteorologist Marshall McPeak shows us from Columbus, Ohio, that the wind direction is changing.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Marshall McPeak. We've been watching what's going on in California and all the rain coming ashore, the huge snowfall totals. All of that is being driven by upper air currents, and those are going to change over the next week or so. Right now, what we're watching is the jet stream. It's that river of air that is thousands of feet in the sky. It's able to divide between warm air and cold air, and it's able to pick up lots of moisture and bring it ashore. Well, that's what's been happening in California. The polar jet has been coming across the Pacific, picking up all that moisture and then dumping it on the West Coast. That begins to move over the next few days. So by the time we get toward the later part of the month, it's actually coming around the Rockies instead of over the Pacific. So that means it's going to have less moisture to it. The subtropical jet, though, will be coming across the Pacific, and you notice how it's moving into parts of the southeastern U.S. So all of that begins to change the way the weather is behaving across the continental U.S. What we end up with is a huge portion of the middle and western parts of the country being colder than average because of the position of the jet stream, running all the way down toward the Mexican border and letting that cold air spill in from Canada. The southeastern part of the U.S. remains warmer than average. It's on the other side of the jet. But that subtropical jet, that's the other one. And that's good to bring that moisture all the way out here into the eastern U.S., most of which is going to be above average for precipitation. So all driven by those upper air currents, it's going to have a very distinct effect at the surface. And we'll be watching how it all changes over the next few weeks.
Nick Stewart is a broadcast meteorologist in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. When he's not in the studio, he's on the road chasing storms. In fact, he caught this rare January tornado on camera on Monday. Emily Gracie recently caught up with him to find out how he prepares for the chase.
It really is kind of a game, really, throughout the day of kind of using your best meteorological practices and meteorological knowledge of finding the best place to be, looking at the environment. Also a bit of luck as well.
Yeah, you're a meteorologist, but not all storm chasers are meteorologists, right? So do you feel like you have a heads up?
Yes and no. I'd say a lot of storm chasers, even though they might not be meteorologists, degree meteorologists, or even working as a job as meteorologists, they all look at severe weather usually for years and years and years. So they all generally have that same kind of knowledge. Having, the full meteorology degree might be helpful. But really, any storm chaser that's been doing it for, a decade or more, they have the same level of experience of kind of dealing with the severe weather threat.
So is it like Twister? Are you guys competitive out there? Are you slashing tires to get ahead?
No, honestly, it's quite the opposite than the movie Twister. A lot of times it's, you meet out, you could be in the middle of nowhere, Kansas or Nebraska, and you see somebody you haven't seen in 3 or 4 years. It's maybe not sharing so much detail and so much of exactly where you're going to go kind of thing, but you might as well kind of hang out with some of your friends while you're out there.
What kind of equipment do you need?
When I used to storm chase many, many years ago, it was a lot more complicated. It was a lot of computers and all these kind of things. Now, I mean, honestly, I like to be a lot more simple. I like just chasing with the phone or even maybe just a small tablet or small laptop. This year, I started chasing with a new internet service, SpaceX Starlink internet service, which will really help me get internet in very remote areas.
Are you often in danger? Have you been in danger? And how does your family feel about this?
It's not the weather that's the problem. It's the driving. Driving is by far the worst part of storm chasing. And that's not even usually right when you're in the severe weather threat itself. When I started storm chasing, I was senior in high school pretty much at that point. And my parents were questioning why I was doing what I was doing. I will say that as years have gone by, they kind of just say, just let me know when you get home. Don't tell me that you're going out there. Just tell me when you get home kind of thing.
Head over to YouTube to see a longer version of this interview where Nick discusses how he wound up in the right spot at the right time to catch that tornado on camera. Just search the National Weather Desk on YouTube or scan the QR code on the lower left corner of your screen. Another way we monitor the weather is with Doppler radars. Their data helps, keep us informed about storm dangers and potential weather events all year long, but they do get worn down. Meteorologist Alan Seals explains what needs to happen to keep them in working shape.
Here's a new weather term for you, SLEP. It's not a word, it's an acronym for Service Life Extension Program, and it's been going on for a while around the United States and U.S. territories, all related to radars, Doppler radars. Inside that big dome you just saw lifted off the pedestal in Tallahassee last year is a dish. That dish rotates, sending out a signal looking for precipitation, and as you might imagine, it runs 24/7, and that means parts wear down. Just like your vehicle, sometimes you have to replace parts, sometimes you have to upgrade parts, and right now the latest upgrade is a new pedestal, the part that holds that rotating dish. Now the actual radar you may know is called WSR-88D. That stands for Weather Service Radar 1988, and the D is for Doppler, and many of them have been in service for 2 or 3 decades, so they definitely need some maintenance. The big question is, well, what happens when you take away a Doppler radar? Well, fortunately, across the U.S. and U.S. territories, there are well over 100 Doppler radars from the National Weather Service, so they all overlap in their coverage. And that means if you're looking on a weather app, it won't really look any different. But if you're looking on an app that is specific to a specific location, then there won't be data. Overall, it doesn't really degrade weather forecasts, but it's a small data loss. But it's temporary. I'm meteorologist Alan Seals.
As we head to break, we take to the skies for a look at Green Bay before the recent snow.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. The Plains got a lot of snow yesterday. That is now transitioning up towards Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. Showers and storms across the Ohio Valley for the day today. As we continue on into the day tomorrow, some lingering flurries across a lot of the area, but generally a lot quieter for your Friday and colder for a lot of us as well. Starting to see our next system swing in on Saturday to the south with a wintry mix and snow across Kansas.
And a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, and it'll be quite a bit calmer behind that front. Less wind. We're not going to be tracking big, heavy thunderstorms. A lot of sunshine, and really not bad with those temperatures. We head into Friday in the morning. A little area of low pressure is developing along the Gulf Coast. That'll throw some cloudiness into at least about half of Texas. Otherwise, 50s, 60s, and maybe around 70 degrees. A couple sprinkles possible near the coast.
Well, hi, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out west, you can see the chill right away over the Rockies. Temps just in the 20s and the 30s over the Intermountain West, including just 24 for a high out of Jackson Hole. Meanwhile, 55 out of San Francisco, trying to dry out there in the Golden State, but some heavy snow with this next weather maker pushing over the Sierra and into the Wasatch for a Thursday afternoon. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
An Idaho community is facing flood damage this morning, but not because of the rain. A reservoir built in the 1950s ruptured Wednesday morning, releasing 3 million gallons of water. As Chris Mitchell reports from Lewiston, the cause is still under investigation.
If you look at the video, it looks like raging waters. It almost looks like a river, like in the park. And that's a dry creek riverbed, and that was the only thing that was keeping our apartments from flooding.
While his apartment was spared, others weren't so lucky.
Our neighbor got lots of damage. From what I heard, he had 3 to 4 inches of water in his basement, and there's like mud everywhere covered his basement. He didn't get out so lucky.
A spokesperson for the city of Lewiston did not have an official estimate on how many gallons were spilled, but it was powerful enough to create a hole so deep the sewage pipe is now exposed in a culvert. The rush of water also buckled roads and pushed mud and debris just over a mile away into Dick Goodman's lot.
The cleanup. It's going to suck having to dig all this mud out of here and flatten my lot back out.
And thank you for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll talk with an expert about a new planet just discovered by NASA. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Thursday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.